Honda Fireblade SP, Ducati Panigale R, MV Agusta F4 RC. What do all these bikes have in common? They're all special edition models based on standard production bikes. This is the new R1. It's standard, but it's actually pretty special anyway. It's got 200 horsepower, weighs only 199 kilos wet. It's got magnesium wheels, aluminium tank, a really sophisticated electronics package. There is a special edition of this bike though, called the R1M. It's got carbon fiber bodywork, electronic suspension, but only 75 of them came to the UK and they are all sold out. So what do you do if you want to kind of get that next level track performance, that next level of bling? You can do something like this. This is still a standard R1. So it's got the same electronics package, it's got the same geometry, but it's had the Yamaha accessories catalogue thrown at it. So it's got rear sets on it, levers, all the really nice stuff. It's got mirror blanking plates for the track, but it's got some really, really useful and important performance upgrades as well. So the forks have been changed with a slightly firmer spring, so it dives a bit less under braking. The rear shock's been replaced with a top of the range TTX 36 Ohlins shock. There's super sticky Pirelli Supercorsa tyres now. Those are Supercorsa as well, but these are the SC1 and SC2 compounds, so they're mega grippy on track. And then finally the exhaust has been replaced with a full Akrapovic titanium system. It takes about 7 kilos off the weight of the bike, and on a bike like this that weighs only 199 kilos wet to start with, that's really noticeable. We're going to go out on the standard bike first, try and get dialed in, get my head around Silverstone because I've never been here before, but I cannot wait to get my hands on it. I've just come back from my first session around the track. I barely know my way around here. There's so many corners and it's really, really fast as well. But for a 200 horsepower machine, it is so easy to get to grips with, and that's thanks to the chassis geometry, it's thanks to the electronics package. The whole bike just feels really stable and easy to use for such a fast machine. I mean, before you get into any of the nitty-gritty of the bike, just taking a step back and looking at it, you know, it just looks rapid and it looks amazing. It's got these MotoGP sort of fins on the tank. It's got this straight through tail unit here. I've never seen anything like that on a bike before. It's got the LEDs tucked under the front fairing. And the whole thing it's got really short wheelbase. So it just looks short, fast, aggressive and rapid, and it goes just how it looks. Again, looking at some of the components, it's got this TFT full colour screen. It genuinely looks like you could play a computer game on it. Fully adjustable suspension, amazing brakes, titanium exhaust as standard, magnesium wheels. The way this bike delivers that killing blow over some of the other sports bikes on sale at the moment is its electronics package. It is so good. I cannot stress how good it is. So I'm going to try and list off everything that this bike's got. There's wheelie control, slide control, traction control, launch control, a quick shifter, and then it's also got riding modes. And on both the road, but especially the track, it's the traction control system that makes you feel so safe while you're doing high speeds and really going to break those kind of like personal bests around the circuit. There's accelerometers and there's gyros all over the bike that basically monitor how far you're leant over, how hard you're braking, how hard you're accelerating. It kind of knows what you're doing before you're going to do it. I'm about to go out for session number 2, so I'm going to try and slash a few seconds off my lap times because at the moment it's just a bit messy while I get to know the circuit. But so far, so good. Right, so we had a bit of lunch. I've ridden the standard R1 now for a few sessions, so I thought it'd make sense to look at this track spec bike before we get our hands dirty and have a go on it. So what has this bike got over the standard model? Well, this is the list of parts that Yamaha's fitted, and it's kind of split into 2 brackets. One is the performance stuff that like really makes a difference on track, and the other stuff is bits like these mirror blankers. And the full list: front brake guard, front brake lever, clutch lever, oil filler cap, rear stand hooks, rear set kit. Money, 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 money. So there's about £2,000 worth of those Yamaha genuine accessories on it, and it's all to make the bike more kind of track ready. So this has got the standard forks on it in terms of the dampers, but the springs have been changed for a slightly heavier spring. And what Yamaha's also done is remove the oil lock system. So on the road, what the standard bike does, if you hit a pothole, it almost acts like a hydraulic system, so it just locks up so it doesn't bottom out. What they've done here is remove that system for the track bike so that when you're braking hard, it can use the whole travel in the suspension, and of course you just get better feel. Those front fork springs from K-Tech really complement the Ohlins TTX GP rear shock, so it's all a bit firmer now, a bit stiffer, all kind of ready for those high speeds that you're going to be doing on track. The biggest upgrade here in terms of money is that Akrapovic system. It's a full system, it's full titanium apart from the end can, which is obviously carbon fibre. But what it does is removes 7 kilos from the weight of the bike. And finally, for the performance upgrades, the tyres from the standard road bike have been replaced with these SC1 and SC2 Pirelli Supercorsa tyres, which are just about the stickiest things you're going to find before you start fitting racing slicks to it. What it doesn't have over Yamaha's R1M is the electronic semi-active suspension. It loses out on the carbon fibre fairings, so these are just the normal standard plastic fairings, and then it's also not got the GPS data logger that comes with the R1M. I think we need to get this bike out on track now and see what it's capable of. Mega day on these two bikes. Thanks to Kevin Healy, Focused Events and Silverstone for sorting it all out for us. Had a few red flags today, but it was all dealt with really quickly, so we've had loads of track time and loads of time to play around on these two little beasts and find out kind of what separates them. So starting with the standard bike, I mean, everyone always says a Honda Fireblade is a really easy bike to ride, and that's kind of what this R1 makes me think of. It's way more advanced electronically and the chassis geometry, and it all feels like a sort of generation ahead. But it's just so friendly. I'm not even going to pretend like I can ride this R1 to the limits, but a couple of things I noticed whilst riding around Silverstone today is the rear shock. I mean, it is adjustable, so you can dial it out, but it was a bit soft. So sometimes when you're really pinning it out of some fast corners, the front was getting a bit light just because the bike was squatting down at the rear slightly. The other thing I noticed is throttle pickup. It's really good, but it's just not immediate. So sometimes when you come into like a second gear hairpin and you crack open the throttle, there's just a half-second delay where you kind of want it to pull you out, and it just takes that bit longer to actually do it. But I mean, that's really it, and it's so difficult to fault this bike. It's so good as it is, straight out the crate, straight from Yamaha. So then the blue one we had to go on, and the most noticeable thing that I felt first was that suspension. It's so much firmer on that track spec bike than on the standard bike. So just it actually requires a bit more effort to hustle it into corners at slow speeds, but when you start getting some heat into those tyres and pushing the bike around, that's when you can start feeling what that suspension is capable of. Around corners, the track spec bike with the Ohlins rear shock and the K-Tech front springs, that suspension just feels so much more composed than the standard bike. The standard bike is still really good, but you can just feel it moving about a bit more. This is just more composed, yet still offers all that feedback that you'd kind of want and expect from a bike like this. And because obviously it's not squatting and it's not moving around or shaking its head on corner exit because it's been sort of dialed in properly, then it just encourages you to get on that throttle more and more, which obviously leads to better lap times. The other noticeable big difference was what that exhaust system do. I didn't feel the difference in weight really. Both bikes felt relatively similar to throw around, but the pickup on corner exit was massively different on the Akrapovic System bike, and also the way it pulls you down the straight. These bikes, you know, the old R1s used to be a fast bike, but nothing compared to the S1000 RRs and the 1199 Panigales. They are now right there at the top, you know, with the BMWs and stuff. They just pull like nothing you've ever felt before. Out on track today, genuinely, even when I wasn't getting a good drive off the corner and people going past me, these were pulling past almost all the sports bikes on the straight. They are absolutely rapid, and that Akrapovic system just kind of gives it that extra poke and that extra pull at the end, and it sounds amazing. You can hear it popping and banging on the downshifts and making kind of similar noises on the upshifts. It's just amazing. So we've done a bit of maths and tallied up all the upgrades on this machine, and they add up to a fairly eye-watering £5,500 for all the performance stuff and all the kind of billet aluminium parts as well. And is it worth it? 5.5 grand? It's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but I guess it's subjective. You know, some people chuck a lot more money than that for something that makes less power and is less sophisticated. So I guess it's up to the rider, but the fact is they do make a big difference, and we were around 3 seconds a lap faster on this track spec machine, which I guess, if it's a track spec bike, is what it's all about, going fast around a track and slashing lap times and kind of setting personal bests. If I was lucky enough to have one of these standard R1s, I'd be so happy as it is. But if I had a bit of budget for some upgrades, I think what I would choose is the exhaust system, because I think it looks brilliant. It sounds properly good. It sounds so mean with the baffle out, a really nice cross-plane crank engine, bark. The suspension on the standard bike is so good, I just think I'd leave it alone. I'd get someone to tweak it, but I don't think I'd spend sort of 1,500 quid, 2 grand for the Ohlins and the K-Tech front springs, just because I probably wouldn't get much extra time out of them personally. A racer probably would, but not me. And then if I had a big, very hypothetical wad of money left, I'd spend it on tyres like those SE1s and SE2 Supercorsas and track days, because that is the real way you get fast on track.